Hello guys. So I'm about to solve a polynomial question that looks like a quadratic equation when you look at it, but it's not actually a quadratic equation after you eliminate this rational term here. So the rational term here would may cause confusion for some students because they are initially used to a quadratic equation in the form of that has the form of, let me just write it here, ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0 without any rational term. So when we look at this one now, to eliminate the rational term, the first thing one will do is to multiply through by the denominator here. So that is we're going to have, we multiply each term, and we're having how many terms? 1, 2, 3, 4, including 0 on the other side. It's the fifth term. So if we do that, we're going to get x squared times x squared plus 2x. I'll put that in bracket because I'm multiplying the two terms by the one outside, plus 2x times x squared plus 2x minus 4 times x squared plus 2x. Now, if you remember from your board math, anywhere you see this bracket is indicating a multiplication of both terms, plus 3 over x squared plus 2x by x squared plus 2x. You can choose to put it in bracket if you want, but it's not necessary because we are still going to cancel out, is equal to 0 times x squared plus 2x. So this one up, we cancel the one down, and that's what we are trying to, that's what we were initially trying to do. Then when you simplify the remaining, you're going to have x raised to the power of 4 plus 2x by this will give us 2x cubed, plus we have another 2x cubed here on the for the next term, and we have 4x squared. Or if you open here, you have 4x squared minus 8x and plus 3, because 3 is alone here now, is equal to, here we'll have 0, because anything multiplied by 0 will still be 0. So when you simplify this, you have x raised to the power of 4 plus, these are like terms because they have variables that have the same power of 3, plus 4x raised to the power of 3, that's 2 plus 2, 4. And this will cancel this. Why? Because they have the same, they're like terms, and they have the same coefficients. So it's like 4 naira minus 4 naira will give us 0, minus 8x plus 3 is equal to 0. So this, when you look at it, this is a quartic function. It's a quartic function, and a quartic function is having a power of 4. So there's a way we can, of course, factorize this question. This is a typical wire question that you can find in either further maths under the pure mathematics section. So these are questions that are likely to come out. So there's a way we can factorize this quartic function, but I'm not going to use that method now. I'm going to use another alternative method to solve this question, which I think, or I believe, will be an easier method compared to factorizing. Alright, so the first thing I will do is to come back and look at this question very well. You realize something, that we have x squared plus 2x here, and we have x squared plus 2x here as well. So I'm going to use another variable z or z. I'll say let z represent x squared plus 2x, because if z represents x squared plus 2x, we'll be able to reduce this a quadratic function. We'll be able to reduce it to just one term. So if you look at it now, we're having, anywhere we see x squared plus 2x, we'll put z there. We say z minus 4 plus 3 over z. So instead of having a quadratic term here, we're having a just, let's say, a linear term, just a single variable with the highest power of 1. So how does this help us? Let me explain it this way. When we simplified this previously, we got a quartic function with highest power of 4. And the reason why we are getting a quartic function is because we have a square term here, and we have another square term here. So let's just assume that 2 plus 2 is giving us 4, a higher power. So, but in this case, we have is a linear function with highest power of 1 here, and a linear function with highest power of 1 here. So when we simplify this, similar to the way we did this one, we are going to be having a function with the high power of 2, so just like 1 plus 1. So if I do that now, we're following the same pattern. We're multiplying all through by z or z. So we're going to be having, I'll continue it here, everything here will multiply by z. On the other side will multiply by z as well. So z times z here will give us z squared. We'll come here and we'll see z times minus 4 will give us minus 4z. And on this side we have z times 3 over z. Of course, z will cancel z and we are left with 3 is equal to 0, because 0 times z will still give us, any number multiplied by 0 is still 0. So you see what I'm saying now? We're having a quadratic function in z compared to previously when we're having a quartic function in x. So of course, I know some of you might be thinking that introducing z, where the question came as x, why bringing z to the picture? We're just doing it to make our life easier, or to make the question easier. So of course, this is very easy to factorize using the general form of factorization. Of course, how do we do that? We look for two numbers that when you multiply them, you're going to get the last term here, and when you add them, you get the middle term. So those numbers will be minus 3 and minus 1. Minus 3 and times minus 1 will give us 3, and minus 3 plus minus 1 will give us minus 4. So we're having z squared minus 3z minus 1z, which I will just write as minus z, plus 3 is equal to 0. If you don't understand this, I'll make a video on factorizing quadratic equations and expression, so that you know this method that I'm using. So while grouping at this point, group it as two binomials, then you pick out the common factors or the common term, you use it to factorize, to factor out. Z is common here, so we have z into z minus 3, and what is common here is minus 1. You bring it out, minus 1 into z minus 3 as well is equal to 0. So z, we have z minus 3, you pick 1, z minus 3, and you pick z minus 1 is equal to 0. So it's either z is equal to 3 or z is equal to 1. So we are halfway there, but remember, we are not looking for z, we are looking for x. The z, we said initially that let z represent something. So if z represents this and we have two different values of z, it means we'll bring this this relationship back and say when z is equal to 3, then that means that x squared plus 2x is equal to 3. And when z is equal to 1, it means that x squared plus 2x is equal to 1. So these are two different equations now that are quadratic in nature. We have avoided the quartic function. Remember, something that a function that is quartic in nature will give us 4 answers, or possible 4 roots. But in this case, we are going to get 2 for here and 2 for here, because we are dealing with two separate quadratics. So I'll start with this one. I'm still going to use my general form. And like I said, if you don't know how to simplify that, how to factorize in the general method of factorization, you watch my other video. I'll create a video for that. So by looking for two numbers, you multiply them, you get minus 3. You add them, you get 2. And those two numbers happens to be minus 3 and plus 1, or rather plus 1 and minus 3, because plus 1 times minus 3 will give us minus 3, and when you add them, you get the middle term. So I'm going to replace this middle term. I say this is plus 3x minus x minus 3 is equal to 0, and I group, and I have x as common, x plus 3, and I'm having minus 1 as a common factor, and I have x plus 3 as well equal to 0. My factors are x minus 1 and x plus 3 equal to 0. So it's either x is equal to 1 or x is equal to minus 3. This one is very straightforward. So we have gotten the first two roots of or solutions of x. Remember, this was the initial question. So for on the other side, when z is equal to 1, we have x squared plus 2x minus 1 equal to 0. So of course, when you watch my other video on how to factorize in general method, you realize that this type of equation or quadratic cannot be factorized using general method. You have to use another method. So of course, you will know the reason for that when you watch the other video. I'm going to use a quadratic using x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is the quadratic formula. This is our a1, this is our b2, and this is our c. So I'll say a, b, and c. So anyway, we're just going to replace these numbers with the letters they represent. So we have minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4. My a is 1 and my c is minus 1 all over 2a. And this will give me minus 2 plus or minus the square root of, I have 4 minus 4 by 1 is still minus 4 times minus 1 will give me plus 4. So I have 8 all over 2. So I'm going to continue from the other page. So of course 4 plus 4 is going to give us 8. So I'm going to have my x is equal to minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 8 over 2. Good. Over 2. So this plus or minus here indicates that you're having two possible values, and of course, you know, a quadratic equation is graphed as a parabola that is symmetric on the positive axis, positive x-axis, and the negative x-axis in most cases. So I'm going to separate and say x is either minus 2 plus root 8 over 2 or minus 2 minus root 8 over 2. Root 8 is a sword, and can be simplified. It can be simplified as 2 root 2. So you can also watch my videos on sword if you don't understand how this came about. So x is either equal to minus 2 plus 2 root 2 over 2 or minus 2 root 2 over 2. When I simplify, I'm going to have x to be equal to minus 1 plus root 2 or minus 1 minus root 2. So I have two values for here. So therefore, I'll say therefore the solutions, because they say we should solve, it's either say the solutions or the roots. The solutions are, we got what here? We got 1 and minus 3. We got 1 and minus 3. So the solutions are 1, comma minus 3, comma minus 1 plus root 2, and minus 1 minus root 2. Thank you for watching, guys. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section. You can send me an email, or you can, if you have a question that is different from this topic, maybe you saw it in the WAEC and you're not sure, or JAM, or GRE, or SAT, you can also email me and I will create a video that explains how to solve that. And if you think there's any way I can improve my channel, you can also give me a suggestion, and I would love if you like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you can get notified when I post videos and update my channel. Thank you very much.